This is Barry Zalma speaking for Claim School Incorporated with another true crime of insurance fraud story. This one, video number 54, called High Tech Fraud. Dennis loved computers. He spoke their language fluently. He could converse as easily in Windows, BASIC, COBOL, FORTRAN, machine language, UNIX and Linux as if he was speaking English. BASIC and DOS were child's play to Dennis. Computers were his life. Whenever Intel marketed a new chip, Dennis was the first in line to buy faster and more complex computers for his personal use. Dennis could never afford every computer he wanted to buy. As a programmer for WYSIWYG Enterprises, he earned only $60,000 a year. He lived near his work in San Jose. Dennis took the bus from his third-floor walk-up apartment to his office. When he wasn't working, he was modifying and upgrading his personal computers and editing software for his personal use. Dennis loved working on his HP desktop running Windows 10 and Unix. He had available for use a 1200 by 2400 DPI color scanner, a full-color laser printer that printed at 1200 dots per inch, and a 60-inch flat-screen monitor. On the appropriate paper, the printer produced photographic quality images. Dennis had all the latest software for word processing, image enhancement, and modification. A jukebox of 8 optical discs backed up his 4-terabyte hard drive. He owned and used more than 3 terabytes of data or images. Every dollar he made, except minimal funds for his $800 a month rent and McDonald's hamburgers for dinner, went to purchase new and enhanced computer systems. Dennis was happy only when he was at his keyboard, manipulating data and images, or playing games with people all over the world over his high-speed internet connection to the web. This year, Dennis was frustrated. Intel announced it would soon introduce its P1207 chip designed to multitask in Windows 10, Linux, and/or Unix. Dennis was passionate only about computers. The passion consumed him. To upgrade his chipset with the software necessary to use all of its potential, Dennis needed $40,000. He did not have the money. He had no conceivable means of getting the money. Dennis was disheartened. Dennis sat at his desk and stared at the Windows logo on his screen. The inability to possess the most recent computer so depressed him, he could not even touch the keyboard. Dennis was verging on catatonia. His desire for the upgraded computer and software overwhelmed him. He had to have the money. Breaking out of his depression, Dennis began to play with the photo imaging software. He had purchased on CD-ROM a library of stock public domain photographs. Dennis decided to hone his skills in the operation of the software by manipulating 2 to 4 images from his CD-ROM. First, Dennis captured a photograph of a Chippendale chair. He concluded that the chair would look lovely in his living room beside the HP. With his digital camera, he took an electronic photograph of the HP and downloaded the photograph into his laptop. He then captured the photograph of the Chippendale and placed it beside the table where the HP sat. Since both photographs were taken at different times and under different lighting conditions, he used the paint and draw functions of the software to draw in a shadow of the Chippendale chair on the HP and table at the same angle as the shadows the table threw against the back wall. When he was finished, the screen made it perfectly clear that an antique Chippendale chair sat in his living room beside his HP. After saving the new image, Dennis printed it on his color laser printer. The result was a clear photograph looking as if it had been taken with any 35mm camera and printed in the local 1-hour Photoshop. This was fun. Dennis began to rise from his depression. Next, he took a digital photograph of his mantel, and from his collection of stock photos, he placed a sterling silver 18th century epergne, a 6-armed silver serving dish with a crystal condiment dish on each of the 6 arms on the mantel. Again, he made a photographic print of the newly created image. After playing with the computer and its image capturing and manipulating software for a full weekend, Dennis created 28 photographs of valuable antiques sitting inside his apartment. No one looking at the photographs with anything other than a scanning electron microscope could determine that the items depicted in the photographs were never in Dennis's small apartment. Dennis showed the photographs to one of his fellow programmers at WYSIWYG Enterprises. Rather than detecting his computerized manipulation, each of his associates, with more than 300 combined years of computer experience, complimented him on the photography and expressed surprise that he would own and keep in his apartment such valuable antiques. One, Alain de Gaulle, an insurance agent's son, expressed shock when Dennis told him he had no insurance. "Dennis," Alain explained, "there are valuable antiques, not to mention your computer systems. How can you live in that miserable cheap apartment without renter's insurance to protect you against burglary?" "I admit my apartment is small and inexpensive, but the neighborhood's a good one. My neighbors look out for each other. There is no reason to have insurance. No one will steal from me." "Sure," Elaine moaned, "and no one would ever consider landing an airplane on the White House lawn, but he did." "I see what you mean," Dennis said. "I guess I'm naive. I just didn't think anyone would steal from me. I've never hurt anyone." "Burglars don't care," Elaine responded. "I guess you're right. What should I do?" "Have you had the items in the pictures appraised?" "No. Why would I? Because you can't get insurance without an appraisal." "But why would I want insurance?" "Because these things cost a great deal of money, and you, on the miserable salary WYSIWYG pays us, can't afford to lose any of them." "I guess you're right," Dennis said. "Could your father help me?" "Of course," Elaine responded. "I'll even get half the commission for bringing you to him. And since I never make money off friends, I'll give it back to you." "Well, you are a good friend, Elaine. All you need to do is get me the appraisals, and I'll take it from there." Dennis took his photographs, which clearly fooled his computer-wise friend Elaine, and which he was certain would fool any fine arts appraiser, and opened the yellow pages under A for appraisers. He found a listing of 35 different names of fine arts and antique appraisers. Since Dennis never owned any of the items of value depicted in the photographs, he was curious to see the true value of the items his photographs seemed to prove were in his house. He took the photographs to the first appraiser he found in the telephone book. That appraiser, Albert Eisenson, was the owner of Antique Universe, a retail establishment selling antiques, used furniture, and old estate jewelry. Eisenson took the photographs and said, "I can't give you an appraisal from just photographs. When can I see the merchandise?" "Mr. Eisenson," Dennis replied, "I have them stored in a very secure place for fear of theft. Now that I have an idea of their true value, I need you to prepare a detailed estimate so I can get insurance, move the items back in my house, and let you see them." I will pay you a $300 bonus in addition to your normal billing for your services because I'm asking for an extraordinary effort. You should be home with your family this weekend, not meeting with a lawyer for an insurance company." When Dennis pulled out the 5 $100 bills he had in his wallet, Eisenson immediately sat at an old underwood upright typewriter and began to type out an appraisal of the value of the various items depicted in the photographs Dennis provided to him. He made no comment, just silently put the bills in his pocket. Because he only had photographs, Eisenson estimated age, quality of craftsmanship, and value. The appraiser, more often than not, could only provide a range of values such as a Chippendale chair circa 1890, excellent physical condition, carved from mahogany and covered in a silk jacquard print, valued between $30,000 and $40,000. By the time the appraiser completed his task, Dennis had an appraisal in his name reflecting personal property equal in value to $250,000. Dennis took the appraisals to his friend Elaine, showed them to him, and asked, "Can your father insure them with these appraisals?" "Oh, no," Elaine responded. "An insurance company needs a definite value. A range such as that given by your appraiser is impossible to deal with, since if one of them is lost, the insurance company can't write you a check between $30,000 and $40,000. Dennis, not wishing to deal with the appraiser again, went back to his computer. He used his scanner to make an image of the appraisal form. Then, with his paint facility and manipulation of document software, Dennis erased the lower part of each range of values placed by the appraiser. By so doing, he increased his appraisal to $350,000. He then printed out each new appraisal with the new values and a new total of $350,000, which Elaine accepted and returned 4 days later with a personal articles folder issued to Dennis, insuring him against all risks of physical loss to the 25 items depicted on the appraisal and in the photographs. The insurance company agreed that in case of loss, the value of each item was the value stated on the policy and the appraisals. Dennis had a policy in his hand based totally upon photographs of items that he never possessed. He had no choice but to go forward with a claim. Dennis, the nerd that he was, actually read his policy. By reading the policy, Dennis learned that it covered almost every contingency. It did exclude certain things like wear and tear, earthquake, war, nuclear radiation, and similar uninsurable risks. Burglary was one main reason for the purchase of such a policy, and there was no question coverage was available for any loss that Dennis might incur during the 12-month period the policy was in effect. Dennis paid the premium in full. Being a patient man, not wishing to raise suspicion, Dennis waited. Intel had problems producing the new chip, and it would be at least 8 months before the first computers incorporating such a powerful chip was available in the marketplace. On the 310th day the policy was in effect, a Sunday morning, the day after Intel announced the shipment of 100,000 chips to Hewlett-Packard, Dennis called the San Jose Police Department to report a burglary at his apartment. He informed the police officer that he left his apartment for an hour and a half to walk down to the corner to get a cafe latte and a sandwich. He drank the cafe latte quietly at the coffee shop while reading his Sunday San Francisco Chronicle. On his return, he unlocked the front door and realized he had failed to lock the window beside his third-floor fire escape. All his antiques were gone. His HP desktop was gone. He gave the police officer the list of insured items, and told him that he had no insurance on the computer workstation. The police officer dutifully noted the descriptions from the insurance policy of each item, and from the invoice the serial number of all the components of the HP. Other valuable computer items were left in the apartment. Dennis and the police officer could only assume that the burglars heard him coming and were frightened away before they could take everything. Dennis, they advised him, was fortunate. Dennis called up his friend Elaine's father, reported the burglary, and after a visit by a claims representative, the insurance company delivered a check for $420,000 to him in exchange for a signed proof of loss. Dennis now knew that his fondest dream had come true. He deposited the check in his account and wired new Hewlett-Packard and Dell Inspiron computers together, powered by 20 new dual-core Intel chips chained together. His monitor was two 60-inch screens putting out 2400 by 2400 pixels. He had 15 terabytes of internal hard drive, 5 terabytes of flash memory, and all backed up with equal amounts of optical storage. His system rivaled those now used by NASA and the NSA. Dennis lived happily ever after, occasionally creating new photographs as the computer industry created new toys. His foray into insurance fraud succeeded, and he was smart enough to not try it a second time where he might be caught. This video was adapted from my book, Insurance Fraud Costs Everyone, which supplements my treatise in 2 volumes called Insurance Fraud Second Edition, all of which are available as Kindle books and paperbacks from Amazon.com. Thank you for your attention, and as you watch this video, please click the like button and the Rumble button if you're watching on Rumble.com.